role and be heard in the creation of digital common laws. The session further addressed the need for harmonization of laws without erasing the diversity of our legal cultures. Drawing from the broader jurisprudence of personality, property, and liability, the speaker of the technical session 3 argued for a contextual and constitutionally aligned approach to legal reform. Using the real life example of a very famous series, Jamtara, a town known for cyber fraud, he tried to illustrate how digital literacy gaps and inadequate enforcement mechanisms reveal the failure of current laws to the effectively respond to artificial intelligence driven crimes. Butoria further emphasized that future lawmaking shouldn't be reactive but anticipatory, incorporating insights from the preamble, fundamental rights, and the socio-economic realities of countries like India. For true digital justice, legal systems must be adaptable, inclusive, and grounded in ethics. And we will further continue his topic in another session where today's session of discussion and participants' opinion. We will further elaborate this topic. So this is the a report of day 3 of faculty development program, law, artificial intelligence, and digital society. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. Over to Amrita.
Thank you, Dr. Rumi Ahmed, for that thoughtful recap of day 3. It's always a valuable way to reflect on the key takeaways from the previous sessions. FDP. Hello, am I audible? Okay. So to formally open the session, I would like to invite the head of the Department of Law, Professor Dr. Pallavi Gupta, to address us. Please, ma'am, over to you.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. May I see the welcome button? I would like to welcome first Mr. Meng Srivastava, who is the speaker for the day. He is from Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur. Since the topic is, for the discussion is legal challenges in fintech, blockchain, and the decentralization system. Be the people from legal background, in fact, if I talk for myself, I am not understanding what is blockchain, what is fintech, and that's it. The speaker will educate us, the people who are in legal field, what is blockchain, fintech, and what are the legal challenges. So this is a really very interesting topic for the day. So I welcome once again Dr. Mayank Srivastava. So I welcome virtually Dr. Mayank Srivastava. Dr. Mayank Srivastava, am I audible? I think you, he's muted. He's muted. He's muted actually. Just wait, sir. Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are
Thank you
audible.
so much for the invitation, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you,
I
sir.
was actually unable to unmute
Yeah.
myself. I don't know, there was some.
And sir, once again, I welcome you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Ma'am, I hope I'm perfectly audible. There's some network issues, I believe, from my end only. Uh, this raining and all these things.
There is some network issue. Thank you, Professor Dr. Pallavi Gupta, for your continued leadership and for setting the tone for today's session. We now turn our attention to our first expert session of the day, which will address the legal challenges in fintech, blockchain, and decentralized system, all of which are at the forefront of technological and financial innovation today. We are fortunate to have with us Mr. Mayank Srivastava with us as an expert from Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, who will guide us through these complex and emerging legal issues. First, I would like to introduce all of you to our eminent speaker. Dr. Mayank Srivastava serves as the head of the Center for Securities Law at the School of Commercial Law and Arbitration, Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, Chhattisgarh, where he also holds the position of an assistant professor of law. In addition to his primary academic role, he is a visiting faculty member at the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Raipur. An accomplished scholar, Dr. Srivastava is an alumnus of both the University of Delhi and HNLU, having completed his undergraduate and postgraduate studies at these esteemed institutions. He further earned his doctorate in global securities law, underscoring his deep academic commitment to this specialized field. His principal areas of research and scholarly interest encompass mergers and acquisitions, securities law, and corporate finance. A prolific contributor to the legal academia, Dr. Srivastava has authored over 20 research publications, including peer reviewed papers, book chapters, and conference proceedings. His work has been featured by renowned national and international publishers such as Springer and Bloomsbury, reflecting both the depth and impact of his scholarship. Let us all welcome Dr. Mayank Srivastava. Sir, over to you. I believe there is some network issue from our speaker side.
Hello.
Hello, sir, you are audible.
Yes, ma'am. I'm really sorry about this network glitch. It's raining here, and because of that, lots of network problems. I had to switch from one network to another in order to have it better. So, thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me to this session. And as we are talking about blockchain, fintech, and the decentralized finance system, uh, first thing that we need to understand is that we do not have any particular or solid legal understanding with respect to this as far as Indian laws are concerned. So it becomes a bit difficult. And for that reason, I've focused on a lot of things related to how to understand blockchain, how to understand fintech, what kind of implications are there with respect to them, and other aspects which I'll try to deal in this particular faculty development program. But before going into it, I'd like to thank each and every participant who is here with respect to this faculty development program, and highly thankful to all the respected members of the organizing team who have called me for this FDP, and definitely each and every person who is going to enrich or learn anything out of what I may discuss here, because every one of us is a learner and definitely will remain a learner throughout our life. This is what law teaches us, that you cannot ever say that I have learned everything in law. Because every now and then you'll find something new. And particularly when you talk about topics like these, what has been provided to me, it is something where you learn every single day. There's something new. So for that reason, we're dealing with all what we have today. Maybe after a couple of months, or let's say after 6 months, a year, things become changed. Things come into picture, etc., etc. So for that reason, what we are discussing today is on the basis of the general understanding and keeping in mind what we have today in law in our nation, in other nations, and collectively globally, how we are understanding it. Now, since this is a faculty development program, I have also tried, dealing with my session in a manner where it can be fruitful not only to understand what the concept of these topics is, but also how we are going to enrich or how we are going to, inculcate these things into our teachings, into our learnings, and eventually how our students may be benefited. So, without wasting any time further, because my network is already wasted a lot of time, uh, I'll just be sharing the screen with you. Please tell me if it is visible. Is it visible to everyone? Anyone can please tell me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's visible. Very good. So the topic provided to me is related to legal challenges in fintech, blockchain, and decentralized finance. Right. So I hope this is visible to everyone now. Now, legal challenges in fintech, blockchain, and decentralized systems. This seems to be a kind of a topic or an area which is not much touched till now. And for that reason, I'll tell you, there are lots of problems, lots of issues at the very elementary level, at the very basic level. When we talk about blockchain in particular, fintech still regulated. Decentralized finance or decentralized systems broadly in India are not very prevalent. But blockchain, when we are talking about, blockchain is something that seems to be largely rooted but very less regulated. And for this reason, legal challenges in all of these systems, all of these modern technologies, modern concepts becomes a very alarming topic, alarming area to be discussed about. But then, let me tell you, this is a faculty development program, as we know. It's very important to understand how we are going to deal with the topic. Definitely, I'm not saying that that is not a crucial concern. But along with it, my way of dealing with this particular session would be to understand how it is going to benefit us in our teachings, in our deliveries, what we are going to make in our classes. That is the only way I believe it can be fruitful for an FDP. I'm not here to take a lecture on these topics. I'm not here to tell you about like a classroom or an academic lecture as to what may be these things. I'm not saying I'll not do that, but along with it, I'll be dealing with the other aspects as well that are crucial. Now, starting with The introduction, as ma'am was also saying, that we being law teachers, we being law students, are generally unaware about how we decode this concept of blockchain. And blockchain is something that we keep on listening every now and then, we keep on listening about it. We know that there is a concept known as blockchain, but then we do not understand how we are going to assume that this is what blockchain is. Okay, and there is a reason behind it. The reason being that while we are emphasizing on law, we emphasize on some or other statutes, legislations. We know we are there are certain sources of law, and we emphasize on those sources to understand any concept whatsoever. But with respect to blockchain, what happens that there is a very limited jurisprudence available. It's a new concept. No old or conventional understanding can help you understand blockchain. So it's very difficult to ascertain it on the through the lenses of law. And for that reason, it's very important to have a look beyond India, okay, to see beyond the local jurisdiction, because blockchain is something that was introduced somewhere in Asia, we may say, but the kind of acceptance that the West has made with respect to blockchain is slightly different as what we see in India in particular. Okay, so for that reason, I'll move ahead with the concept of blockchain in the very first instance. Now, understanding the concept of blockchain, understanding the meaning of blockchain, in the simplest sense, if I tell you, blockchain is a chain of blocks. Okay, this is a very simple meaning that you can extract out of blockchain. That it's a chain of multiple blocks that are attached to each other in a chronological manner. But then this will not provide you a deep understanding as to what blockchain is. Right. So this blockchain as a concept or a mechanism, when we emphasize upon, we need to see how various authorities in different nations have tried interpreting it. While we are emphasizing on technology side, or let's say financial system side, they may be of the opinion that okay, blockchain is a technology used to secure cryptocurrencies, or you can say to secure any transaction in a manner that it does not get that does not suffer from mutation, hacking, etc. But in law, when we are talking about blockchain, or when we are trying to understand the concept of blockchain, it becomes very difficult. So if I may ask, I prefer having a kind of interactive. I do not know if the participants are allowed to speak or not, as per the
Sir,
Zoom meeting.
sir, I
Sorry.
beg your pardon, sir. Dr. A.K. Tyagi this side. Sir, may I know whether you are moving the slides?
Yeah, it's moving. It's not moving or what?
Actually, it's not reflecting on our screen. So could you please do it again because
Just a
we just
second.
want to cross check whether it is
Yeah, yeah,
functional
yeah.
or not.
Yeah, yeah. Just a second.
Sorry for the interruption, sir. I'm extremely sorry.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir. I'll just have a look. Sir, is it visible now?
Now it's visible. Sir, please click on another slide so that we can verify it. Some other
Okay.
slide.
Is it
Yeah, now it is
now?
working, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for letting me know. So we were talking about blockchain, and as I said that while we are emphasizing on the concept of blockchain on the side of technology or on the side of financial systems, it may be more inclined towards cryptocurrencies, etc. But then when we are talking about law in particular, it's very important to see the sources of law in order to understand if the blockchain as a concept can be identified or found somewhere related to law. So I am requesting if there is anyone from the participant side who can tell me what shall be the sources, or what shall be the places where we should try and find the meaning of blockchain. If there is any priority or a sequence that we need to follow while we are talking about finding any definition. Let's say we need to find out the definition of X. Okay. In law, how do we proceed? Where should we look first? Can anyone tell me? Okay, anyway, in the first instance, while we are dealing with any particular kind of, yeah, very good. Mr. Brajesh Kumar has mentioned the statute. Very good point. In the very first instance, we look towards the statutes, to the acts, legislations which are incorporated as an act, as a legislation in our nation concerned. So, if you'll definitely have a look towards Indian legislations, you may not find a particular definition related to blockchain, and this is the major reason why we're not in a situation where you can ascertain, okay, this is what blockchain is as identified by law. And for this reason, it becomes very difficult. So when we do not find any particular definition related to blockchain in statutes, we are bound to look towards the other sources of law. The secondary, the second source of law which we shall
Sir,
be looking
our
towards shall be.
participants are answering in the chat box. You may check the chat box.
Yeah, I have a look.
Okay,
I
thank you,
had
sir.
a look. Right. Yeah, yeah. Then only I got to know that they mentioned the statute. Right. So after we emphasize on statutes, we do not find something. The second place where we look for any definition or any interpretation, understanding is precedents or judicial decisions. And when you talk about judicial decisions related to these modern concepts, the concepts like blockchain, etc., you will have to go cross borders. Only then you'll be able to understand if there have been any interpretations with respect to them. So when we are talking about blockchain, we have a look towards US based case laws as well. Okay. And on the understanding of US based case laws, there have been multiple cases like SEC versus Ripple Labs, SEC versus Dapper Labs, Friel versus Dapper Labs, and many other such kind of cases, Binance Holdings, etc. They have all tried understanding and interpreting what blockchain would generally mean, and they have emphasized on a very basic point that, see, it may seem very complex, it may seem very difficult to interpret or to assume what blockchain is, but they have tried making it very concrete with the help of a basic understanding that any functionality. Okay, let me just do that. Is it fine now?
Yes, sir, it is okay now.
Yeah. Okay. So any functionality, any system that is supposed to be, following a certain network, following a certain kind of purpose, which is with respect to, protecting, securing a transaction, can be said to be blockchain. So ideally, as has been identified in the case of Dapper Labs, in the case of Binance Holdings by the US legal authority, blockchain is a kind of a transaction or a technology that emphasizes on various blocks. Okay, it can be said to be A plus B plus C plus D, where these four are different four blocks containing information. Okay, and they have been arranged in a chronological order. So after A, B should be there. After B, C should be there. There is a chronological order that has already been identified, and this technology altogether of arranging this various sequences of blocks into a chronological chain in order to have a technology or a transaction being scattered into different blocks is blockchain. Okay, so what is happening, let me tell you with an example. Let's say X is transferring a certain money to Y through a particular blockchain technology that is following. Okay, now in this particular thing, we know there is a concept known as encryption or cryptography, which is quite a common concept now in IT laws or digital laws. So, if we follow that particular technique where we're talking about encrypting something into a different language altogether, and why do we go for encryption? To protect the data, to avoid any kind of hacking or some kind of person having unauthorized access, etc. In blockchain, again, it's happening in a manner that it starts with a particular block which may have a particular information which is divided into multiple blocks. And all of these blocks being arranged in a chronological order give rise to a particular transaction happening perfectly and shall only be considered to be complete when it is reached to the other person to whom it was intended. But no person in between can have any unauthorized access, because all these blocks that are there in this particular chain are said to be dependent yet interdependent, or rather independent of each other. So all these blocks which are part of that chain, which collectively comprises of blockchain, actually are independent of each other. Why I'm saying independent? Because even if you have access, see, if I'll make it in share mode, I'll not be able to see your answers. Okay. Anyway, I'll just do it. Okay. I hope now it's fine. Now, see, when we're talking about blockchain, as I was mentioning, so all the chain or the blocks which are there in that particular chain are said to be independent of each other, yet they are dependent because they all are falling into a particular chain, and that chain is actually the transaction that is happening. It's just that the chain is broken into various blocks, and each block has its own information. Okay, if there is any student of commerce here or any student related to accountancy, might be understanding that we had a record book named as ledger. Okay, now in ledger we had various entries that is put together into one particular ledger. Now that ledger of multiple entries could be said to be having one single access, but the point is each particular entry which is a part of that ledger comes from a different journal altogether. And for this reason, while we are identifying that particular record that we are seeing in front of us, it can be said to be a blockchain, but you cannot break it. You cannot say that at any point of time blockchain can be, I'm not saying it's impossible altogether, but blockchain as a concept, all what we have seen till now, it's said to be immutable. It's said to be something that cannot be, easily uh, compromised on the basis of their transparency, on the basis of their security. So the kind of security that we are having in blockchain is to a large extent said to be secured, largely secured. And while we are emphasizing on US judgments, or while we are emphasizing on the technological understanding of blockchain, we are still considering it to be crucial for financial systems. Okay. But then, if you see in the current times, blockchain is not merely used for financial systems. Blockchain is a very wide dimension. Blockchain is utilized for various kind of things, for various aspects altogether. And for that reason, maybe that there may be more to blockchain, what we are yet to understand. But the point is, as a law teacher, as a law student, what we need to see here is that what is the purpose of blockchain? The purpose of blockchain is to have a transaction, to facilitate a transaction. Now, if a transaction is between two parties, there's said to be a high chance of having, unauthorized access in between, or some kind of hacking in between, or whatever the reason may be, whatever the kind of thing may happen. But when you have broken it into various blocks forming a particular chain, the kind or the percentage of unauthorized access or hacking, etc., gets decreased substantially. So blockchain is just a technology. Okay, blockchain is not something that can be said to be a security, or blockchain cannot be said to be any instrument as such. Blockchain is a technology. Now that technology can be utilized for anything. Right now we're more emphasizing on financials like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, etc., who follow blockchain. Okay, so if we take the example of a cryptocurrency, how blockchain is utilized in a cryptocurrency, so we can consider that the transfer that is happening between the holder and the issuer is going through certain blocks, and each block has its own characteristic and feature which is independent of the other block. But one block independently cannot complete the transaction, and even if you have an access to one block, you do not have access to the whole chain, because that chain is said to be kind of receiving a community validation. All the kind of blocks which are part of that chain have to be validated all together. Only then it can be said that the blockchain is a legitimate technology for the sake of transfer or transactions. So chains, or rather blocks that are there, are all said to be having their own properties, are all said to be having their own features, but then they are so connected with each other in a chronological manner that they may transfer. They have the potential of transferring a particular thing from one place to another, but at the same time, they give you a kind of assurance that the data will not be muted in between. Okay, the data will not be hacked in between. There will be no unauthorized access in between because it has been broken. Okay, it has been broken into parts, and each part plays its own role. So by the division of blocks, what is happening? You're eliminating any centralized authority. You're not allowing one authority to manage everything. You're not allowing one particular step which can be considered to be the only step that can control the overall blockchain. Every block has its own independent steps. Every block has its own independent features, but at the same time they form the part of a bulk chain, a large chain, and eventually this blockchain helps us in making our transactions, in making our activities more secure as compared to the traditional methods of transactions, and also at the same time protects the interest of investors as well. But the point is that it's a bit difficult to ascertain who may be behind the issuing authorities, and for that reason, in India, blockchain and cryptocurrencies face what they are facing, okay, or see how they have been managed in India. Everyone knows. We'll discuss about it while we'll be dealing with the legal challenges. So any information that is stored in blockchain, you understand in simplest sense, cannot be altered by only one block's access, as I was telling you. It is a sort of community validation, community agreement, where all the blocks are actually agreeing to be there. Let's say X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These blocks are supposed to arrange in a particular manner. Only then they'll be effective for a transaction, and that effectiveness is dependent on that chain. Okay, if the chain breaks at any point of time, the transaction would not be considered to be having unauthorized access or hacking by any person, because that chain is supposed to be followed by each block playing its own role. Okay, so the judgments I was talking about, Ripple Labs, Binance Holdings, and Dapper Labs, all these three cases and many other cases as well, they have emphasized on three aspects. Okay, they have emphasized on three aspects to understand the structural framework of blockchain. The structural framework, as per the interpretations of US based laws, structural frameworks emphasize on one thing, that it's not something that flows from one person to other directly. It's a decentralized system. Okay, so blockchain can be said to be premised, the structure of blockchain can be said to be premised over a decentralized system. Now, that decentralized system does a benefit or provides a benefit. What is that benefit? The benefit is that each and every block that we are following in that decentralized system plays its own role. Okay, has its own feature, has its own a transaction to play in that particular chain. But at the same time, this decentralized structure gives them this independence that even if they are compromised at any extent, the whole blockchain will not be compromised. So this decentralized system is better than one centralized system, where if that is compromised, the whole system gets defeated. So it becomes kind of, you can say, it is beneficial for new technologies, for new kind of systems of transactions, financial transactions, even in companies for supply chain, etc. Also blockchains are being utilized in order to ascertain how we can have it better. We have concepts like smart contracts, etc., which are also dependent on blockchain. All the kind of cryptocurrencies throughout the world, what we are seeing, they are all said to be dependent on blockchain. So as a technology, blockchain is a good thing, but for the sake of regulators, it might be bad, because you might not find out, you might not be able to find out at times how exactly or where exactly the source of this blockchain is. Okay, you know uh, there is a name, if I'm not wrong, it was Satoshi Nakamoto. This particular person was said to be, the person who introduced Bitcoin, cryptocurrency related things. But at the same time, there are a lot of contentions with respect to whether this particular thing can be considered to be a part and parcel or a brainchild of one person, or can it be considered to be a representation of multiple persons put together, because it was so that it cannot be traced. Okay, the reason of having blockchain as a modern financial technique, or as a modern transactional technique rather, it's because of its feature of not being traceable. Okay, it's immutable, distributed into various blocks, but at the same time it's not traceable. So there are pros as well as cons attached to blockchain, and the Indian traditional setup might not accept this particular thing for financial transaction in particular, because of the reason that in India we follow regulatory approaches. We do not follow self-regulatory approaches to a very large extent. We are more emphasizing on regulatory approaches, where we have a regulator, prime regulator, who has a look towards who is the issuer, who are the people behind the issuer as well. But in case a particular currency, or let's say a security, is following blockchain networking, it is very difficult to ascertain who is behind the securities, or who is behind the issuer issuing those securities. And because of this reason, in India, we see that blockchain technology supported securities are not identified as securities. Whereas when you talk about US, like there was a case named SEC versus Hovi, okay, and it also identified a Hovi test. Now, the Hovi test says that there needs to be an investment contract, and any particular transaction that can pass the test of investment contracts can be said to be securities. But in India, what we have a different setup. In India, we emphasize on the definition of securities, although we say it's an inclusive setup, but by the time it's not there, okay, by the time adjustum generis may not apply properly there, you'll not be considering it to be a security, right? So for that reason, blockchain support is something that may not suit or fit with the current Indian legislative setup. This is why when started, I told you that this is what we have today. Maybe after a year or some time, we may have a different setup altogether. Maybe we start, having more of full-fledged blockchain-based securities, etc. I'm not very sure about it, but the point is this may happen. Currently, what we are seeing, currently we see that blockchain as a technology is to a large extent restricted in India, particularly related to financial transactions. So I told you function, structural framework. In a structure, we say it's a decentralized setup, okay, distributed to an entire setup where we have different kinds of blocks which are said to be independent, and they are supposed to, like, let's say it's related to a financial transaction, they are supposed to be in line with each other, so they need to be chronological. Functions, while we are talking about the functionalities, the functionality is related to this particular point, that they need to be more inclined towards a chronological linking. Again, functionality is that you're breaking the transaction into multiple blocks, and the reason being that you want to avoid any kind of mutation, you want to avoid any kind of hacking or unauthorized access. So functionality is to break a simple transaction into multiple portions so as to avoid any particular imitation. And the third thing is accessibility, availability. So that depends from nation to nation. Like if you're identifying the accessibility of blockchain, publicly accessible blockchain seems to be more inclined towards activities like, as I told you, supply chain management, etc. When you talk about private, okay, private setup with respect to blockchain technologies, they're more inclined towards financials, because there you may not be able to find the kind of setups that have been adopted. Although, as a law student, as a law teacher, what we are more inclined towards as a concept of blockchain is we need to keep it very simple. We need to understand blockchain is just a substitute of an already established and widely accepted principle of transaction, where we say one person agent to the other person is being transferred through a certain technology. Let's say we want to transfer money from us to any other person. We are simply utilizing what? We are utilizing UPIs. Okay. Now, while we are using UPIs, we are sending money. We are sending money from our account to the account of that other person. What transactional technology we are following, we are not very much aware of. Okay, because this is not something that you'll see. Okay, this is not something that you'll be having access to. But our technology particularly is vulnerable. That is why you might have seen there are lots of circulars from RBI, lots of kind of advertisements as well, that while dealing with such kind of transactional means transactions at public Wi-Fi platforms, or different platforms which may be publicly available, you should be restraining yourself from doing that. Reason being, your transaction may be hacked in between because of some or other technical interference into it, and you may face losses. That is the kind of benefit that you receive in blockchain, that because as soon as your transactions will begin at your end, the whole technology would be that it will be broken into certain different steps, and eventually when it reaches to the other person, it is because that chain was arranged chronologically. All the blocks had their own functions, they performed their functions, and the chain got completed. So the chain when got completed, the transaction was succeeded, or the transaction was successful with respect to the other person. So, with respect to financial systems, with respect to finances, we can say blockchain is a good thing, but then there is a certain, certain kind of pros and con matrix, regulatory matrix, transactional transparency matrix, all these kind of things, because of which we see what we are seeing in India right now, that to a large extent it is restricted. Okay, all the other things related to blockchain we are anyway going to discuss in further points as well. Now I want to move to the other concept, that is fintech. Now see, these are not unrelated to each other. Okay, fintech uses blockchain as a technology, not necessarily, but it does. Okay, fintech, you see, by the name itself, as you can understand, is a fusion of finance and technology. Okay, fintech is a blend of finance and technology. Now, neither finance nor technology is a new concept. Okay, both the concepts have been there. Everyone knows what these two concepts are. What is finance? What is technology? Everyone knows. The point is how this hand-holding between finance and technology is going to benefit, or what exactly it is. What is it exactly is it about? That is where we come across the concept of fintech. Now, let me tell you, in India, the primary regulator of monetary market or money market of India, that is Reserve Bank of India, it has identified fintech. Okay, I'm not saying that fintech is like blockchain. Okay, blockchain may be something not legally identified, but then with respect to fintech, India has taken necessary steps. Okay, because fintech is not just about blockchain. Fintech is about other technologies as well, and fintech will be backed by other technologies. So fintech, by the time we are emphasizing on, we say that in India, back in 2022, Reserve Bank of India established a fintech department in order to take care of the needs of fintech. Maybe some kind of additional requirements that they may have, the kind of problems that they may face. They had a department, and on that basis, on the basis of that department, there are certain kind of tools that are being regulated in India. Now, with time, the shift is towards adopting more self-regulatory approach in fintech as well. But then let me tell you, in nations like India, where frauds etc. happen again and again, self-regulatory approach is a bit difficult task. But then okay, there are certain steps that are being taken in order to adopt more self-regulatory approach. However, In the current times, I would say fintech is something that is there. Lots of things are happening in fintech. Lots of things are inculcated in our day-to-day life in such a deep-rooted manner that we are actually using fintech for like thousands of times, and we may not be recognizing that we are a fintech user. Okay, so this way, this is said to be something that's a part and parcel of our day-to-day life. Now what technology they are following at the backstage, that is something we're not very concerned about. And let me frankly tell you, law students or law teachers may not be very interested in understanding what the technology is. So they basically, what they want to know is the concept. Okay, and just like blockchain as a concept, you can understand what blockchain is, but you do not understand what may be the legal definition of a blockchain. You understand that the blockchain may be something that may provide you protection on one side, but may also be unrecognized on the other side. So, as a law student, we may look towards the pros and cons of these concepts. But as a law student, if we talk about identifying the definition, it's a very bit difficult thing. Even nations like USA have found it very difficult to, divide or rather restrict blockchain into one definition. Same goes with fintech, because in fintech you have lots of things, lots of dimensions. So I want to ask one question to the class, to the participants here. What is the most basic fintech feature that we people use in our day-to-day life? If you can please tell me through the chat. What is the most basic fintech feature that we follow?
Yeah, dear participants, can someone respond to the question Shall I ask?
Right, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now you are audible.
There's some network glitch again. AI chatbots, as mentioned by someone in chat. The most basic features of fintech that we follow in our day-to-day life, let me tell you, is UPI. Okay, UPI, you understand? Unified Payment Interface, UPI, Google Pay, Phone Pay, Bheem, etc. All these apps that follow a particular, technology. UPI can be said to be a kind of a tool related to fintech. There was a very landmark transformation that happened post demonetization or during that particular time. The people moved from cash to digital cash, digital assets, right? Now it's directly related to money. Okay, it's not something that you do not know where from it is coming and where exactly it is going. It is related to your money. The point is the transaction that is relating to that transfer involves UPI network. Okay, now this UPI network that it follows a simple technology, what it is following. Maybe at some point of time you start adopting concepts like cryptocurrency, etc., and for that reason you may have a different blockchain technology. But then right now what we are seeing in fintech, UPI, such some kind of a day-to-day business that we are having with respect to UPI. So that has become quite a part of our life. Other important fintech related tool that we are having are payment gateways. Okay, if you have referred to, if you have ever made payment, like let me tell you an example of IRCTC. Okay, if you have ever booked a railway ticket, now it gives you the choice of utilizing UPI as well. But while you go for using that UPI, before that you might have seen that there are certain payment gateways. One very famous payment gateway name is Razor Pay, if you might be knowing about it. Okay, Razor Pay, and certain others are also there. Is it visible now? Okay, let me confine myself to slides only. Right. So there's certain kind of fintech related aspects that you'll find: payment gateways, UPIs, etc. Now the third aspect, which is very important, is just decentralized finance. Now decentralized finance again does not find any emphasis into law with respect to definition. Okay, decentralized finance emphasizes on combination of blockchain and fintech. Okay, and the most crucial example of decentralized finance can be cryptocurrencies. Okay, because when we are talking about decentralized finance, it's emphasizing on one very basic thing, that it is independent from a centralized authority. So what we have in India, what do we follow in India, that every kind of currency or securities related to financial transactions are bound to be governed by a primary regulator, that is, you know uh, multiple regulators dependent on the kind of securities they are. Let's say SEBI. SEBI is the primary regulator. If SEBI is the primary regulator, you have access over everything. But decentralized finance is something that is saying that you can provide financial services, you can enter into financial transactions over blockchain technology. Now, when we know what is fintech, when we know what is blockchain, we combine fintech with blockchain, we reach to a central decentralized finance. Now, decentralization, everyone knows that you are not merely delegating it, you're decentralizing it. And when you're decentralizing it, it becomes very difficult to, ascertain accountabilities, ascertain, a centralized authority which can take care of the regulatory reforms or any other such kind of thing. So decentralized finance kind of creates a problem. Uh, Now that's it through the lenses of law. Let me tell you, okay, through the lenses of technology, maybe it's better, but through the lenses of law, it creates a problem. So it is something that we are looking forward to get it regulated, to get it, more Indianized, so as to adopt it in India, so as to have more of it in India. But then, right now, what we see with respect to DeFi or decentralized finance in India is that it's largely put in regulatory disparities. Okay, it's something that you may find being, like there was one example. Let me tell you, there was an app named CoinDCX, or there are certain apps that were related to transactions relating to blockchain, sorry, Bitcoin, or such kind of, cryptocurrencies. Now, what that is, that's actually a mix of fintech, because it is allowing you to to do transactions from your bank accounts to purchase cryptocurrencies through, let's say, UPI or payment gateways. And at the same time, the kind of currency that it is allowing you to invest upon are following blockchain, right? So it is a blend of fintech and blockchain. So decentralized finance can be said to be, in the simplest sense, fintech plus blockchain, and it provides you an independence from intermediaries because there is a peer-to-peer lending. It's a blockchain-based technology, so you cannot simply assume that there'll be one intermediary or one centralized authority. It becomes very difficult. Okay, now, as I told you in the very beginning, uh, it's related to a faculty development program. Okay, it's not a lecture with respect to, making you understand what all these things are. It's related to an FDP, so our understanding should always be towards understanding it through the lens of an FDP. So I have a question in my mind: why is it important, why is it crucial to discuss about blockchain, cryptocurrency, fintech, etc. in an FDP? What are we going to get out of it? Okay, why is it important? Why should we discuss? So when we are having this question in our mind, we can understand that there are certain reasons. Okay, there are certain reasons that give rise to this demand that we should understand about blockchain. We should understand about, cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance, fintech, etc. And more or less, uh, it may be something very crucial for technology students, cyber related students. But why is it important to discuss this in a faculty development program for law teachers? Why is it important? So this becomes a crucial question: why should we discuss it? Why? Because See, while we are talking about these concepts, we may not find any legal definition as such. We do not find any act or statute as such. So, why is it important to discuss this while this is still in a very nascent stage? Right. So, that is one question that I pose to the audience here. Why is it important to discuss? Don't
Because
worry about slides. You have a look to me and please answer this question. Why is it important to discuss it?
because sir, you as you have mentioned that we are using it in our daily life. So and we know a bit about that. Means we are not fully aware about that what sort of security measures we need to take in, or what is the complex structure it is, how it is functional, how it is operating. So as a part and parcel of the society, as a human being, as a prudent one, everyone must know that whatever we are using, so how it is going to participate in our life. So I believe this is the main reason that why we should understand and why we should know.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your opinion. Thank you. Any other person who can tell me why is it crucial to us
think,
to go through this concept?
yes,
Yes, please.
my that is my just submission, maybe wrong. Since there is company law and there is investment law,
Mm,
and it is more related to investment for in mutual funds,
mm,
shares,
mm,
the hybrid things, and now there is a scope for the investment in the cryptocurrency and all. So since it is a fintech means, as you tell, is a finance technology, and the very good example is the Google Pay and all. One way this is the platform for the transaction by the user, by the customer for daily routine expenses, and the another way is for the investment. So I think it's maybe related to discuss this topic in FDP.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you so much. So, more or less, when we talk about this thing, that why should we discuss this in an FDP? Is it related to some technology related people's FDP? No, it's a law teacher's FDP, right? So, why is it important to discuss those things which may not even form the part of our law till now? There are reasons. There are reasons, as very rightly discussed by Sir and Ma'am, with respect to what may be the reasons behind it. I have a few more suggestions along with that. That definitely forms as the essence of all the suggestions that I am putting. Why this is or this should be there. But then I'm just telling you a few points with respect to why discussing about blockchain, fintech, cryptocurrency, etc. is important, or rather, why is it important for a law teacher to know about all these things? Okay, first of all, see, I don't know if there is anyone uh, who may think this that law is not dynamic. Okay, everyone who is teaching law, who is learning law, believes that legal education should be dynamic. Okay, should be dynamic, future oriented, and inclusive. These three things need to be very important when we are talking about legal education. It needs to be dynamic, it needs to be future oriented, and definitely inclusive. Now, inclusive here, we basically mean that it should not merely restrict itself to Indian laws or let's say Indian perspectives on things, because this is the right time when we should look forward towards developed nations. See, I am a teacher of securities law, finance related laws. So I personally prefer this point that we should not only restrict ourselves to what we have in India, we should definitely look towards what the other nations are following and how we can grow looking towards them. So every law, be it corporate, be it finance, investments, be it other kind of laws, technology or cyber laws, they are all supposed to be, developing. They are all supposed to be evolving with time. And since legal education needs to be dynamic, it is the need of the hour to understand what things are going to come in future. And this thing actually is not the future; it has become the present. But what happens? We might slightly be running in the past. So it is very important for every law teacher. Doesn't matter you're teaching corporate law, technology law, or not. You are supposed to know about these things because this is where you'll find an edge over other teachers or the other people who might not be knowing about it. Some may think that this is not something that we should be bothered about, but then let me tell you what we have today. There's one thing which is very important, everyone knows: artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., etc. All these things in a few years or a little time, I'm going to tell you, this all things, are, I may not be, exaggerating it, but this is something that will be inflicted into each and every person's day-to-day life. Okay, and then we'll be required to understand what may be the technique behind all these things, and then we'll, at some point of time, reach to a concept of blockchain. If you're related to financials, we'll reach to the concept of fintech, DeFi, etc. So it's very important to ascertain and understand what these concepts are. Okay, a particular session may not be enough to understand it, but this is my own activity that I do, and I suggest everyone should do, that we should spare some time reading about these new technologies that we are going to come across in future, because we should not ever become redundant. Okay, that is something that why we believe. So legal education needs to be dynamic, needs to be future oriented, and who is going to carry legal education? It's the educators, it's us who are going to carry this legal education. So we also need to be dynamic, future oriented, and always ready to learn these new things, because these are going to help us, these are going to provide us a reputation. And see, the whole point of, you know uh, working is because we want growth, we want progress. Okay, and let me tell you, these concepts are going to increase your employability, are going to increase your productivity, and definitely are going to provide an impression to the other person that you are not only teaching law, you are continuously evolving, you are continuously keeping your own, you're enhancing your own limits and boundaries, and it becomes very important. It gives a very good impression. I have seen this personally, and I would recommend this to you as well. If you're ever talking about law, or these kind of things, and you're dealing with some law which might be 50, 60 years old, or let's say 100 years old, it's fine. But when you're talking about laws, case studies, or instances that are happening recently, or that you believe that may happen in future because of the kind of activities happening today, it's definitely going to give you a better impression. So it's not just about being dynamic with legal education, it's also about being dynamic with your own personality and with your own knowledge. And for that reason, this is again something that is very crucial. Now see, while it helps, okay, it will help us develop our understanding, legal knowledge, etc., etc. There's one more benefit that law faculties can reap out by knowing about these particular areas like blockchain, etc. That is policy formulation. Why I'm saying this? Because in India we are lacking policy, we are lacking statutes, legislations, we are lacking circulars, notifications with respect to fintech, with respect to blockchain, DeFi, etc. So who is going to take care of that? I'm not saying we are the only caretakers, but we should definitely be taking care of it, because we are some persons who can give proper reasoning as to why this particular thing should be like that. So for policy formulations and decision makings, for the kind of legal frameworks how we are supposed to be there, law teachers may play a very crucial role, and these law teachers will definitely be having a very bright, very important role in the future legal policies that will be driven towards this concept of blockchain and fintech. Now, next question that we need to see as a discussing about legal challenges in fintech. If we are talking about legal challenges, we'll try to rectify them as well. Okay, so while legal challenges are to be identified, everyone can assume that it falls under some or other category of law. Now, what category of law does it actually fall? Which particular kind of law can be said to be closely related to blockchain, cryptocurrencies, fintech, etc.? Which particular field of law? It's related to financial laws, okay, securities law also to a large extent. Now, let's consider it to be broadly investment based laws, financial laws, securities law, broadly as money related laws. Okay. Now, if I ask the audience, what are the kind of difficulties that our students face while we are teaching finance related laws to them, or let's say securities law or investment laws to them? What kind of problems do our students face? Can anyone tell me what kind of problems generally the student? Maybe that some particular student may be facing some other problem altogether, but what may be the kind of problems that can be made more generalized with respect to these kind of laws?
The
Yes,
first,
please.
the first problem is very boring. Try paper.
Yeah, yes, well, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
That's the first thing.
yeah.
I was also supposed to say this, but I thought maybe respected teachers are here, so they will find it,
So it's very difficult
problematic.
to take the interest of the students to study
Yes,
this paper.
yes,
And
ma'am.
second one is material is not available. In fact,
Very true.
and the third thing is to correlate all these things for one point. Uh,
Hmm.
these are the technicalities of the problem which a teacher find in fact.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe others. Sir?
Yes, please. Anyone else who would like to add up? What kind of difficulties students face while reading securities or these kind of papers? Those who are teaching these papers might be more aware about these kind of things. If you're teaching technology law, like cyber law to a large extent, or let's say securities law, these two laws are the most connected kind of laws related to the topic that we are having. And as ma'am has rightly said, that the most important thing or the most basic problem is that students find it boring. Now, why do they find it boring? They find it boring because of the complexities that are there in these laws. Complexities with respect to the language, with respect to the jargons. And one thing which is very important is that we are not getting that these laws may involve the knowledge of some other basic subjects as well. Like when you're dealing with cyber law and securities law, you need to have some knowledge about technology and finances respectively, which may not have been taught to you in your law school. So that's another problem. And that creates a kind of gap between what we expect, what we want from the subject to be completed by a student and what he completes in. He's bound to at times just to learn it for passing the examination, and that's it. So it is our duty as a law teacher that we not only read about that law in particular, we try at least to some extent understanding the underlying concepts. Like if we are talking about finance, we need to know about some basic business or management related concepts. That is definitely going to increase our efficiency as a law teacher. And how we are going to do that? By reading more about blockchain, by reading more about fintech, etc. Then ma'am also said that there is a limited resource available. That's again a very true thing. The problem is no one is actually bothered to read too much about blockchains that they can write about it. It's a very true and a very realistic situation that people right now are not even reading it for the extent of learning themselves. How can we expect them to read it to make it available for others as a book or some reading material? So there is a reason that reading materials are not available in such kind of things. Another reason being we do not have a law till now, okay, so we cannot make a commentary over it. Definitely we cannot. it's a technical thing. It requires some knowledge with respect to other laws. It is a thing which is not available to a large extent, and obviously all these kind of things make it difficult for students to understand it. Case laws also is a one thing, right? When you talk about subjects like constitution and criminal law. Okay, yes, understanding is very important. While you talk about any particular aspect related to corporate law, you may find it difficult that if you do not understand other things or other concepts, definitely there will be a problem. But even then, when you're talking about concepts like blockchain, cryptocurrency, even restricting to finances may not be, enough. You may require to move to technology also. You may require to move to certain other kind of things as well, which may be difficult for teachers also, definitely. It's a very obvious thing that it will be difficult. But then we'll have to undertake this obligation because it's our task how we can make it more accessible to our students, right? So what I was talking about that there are certain case studies like the subjects of constitution and criminal law. We have found there are certain case studies that are not only very enlightening for the students, they're very interesting for the students as well because of the kind of facts or the kind of scenarios that they involve. That is not the case with subjects like corporate securities, etc. Maybe in corporate you still have, but in subjects like securities, etc., you'll not find that particular thing, and that adds up to that boring content because people cannot connect with it. So if we say that corporate and securities law are majorly due diligence laws, okay, and while we are talking about it, it is something that we need to, you know, assume in ourselves how to make it more interesting. Okay, so there are certain kind of difficulties that we discussed, that these are the difficulties that students face. Now, if we are talking about difficulties, it's our job to talk about solutions
So
as
may
well.
I
Okay,
add, uh,
yeah,
may
please,
I
please,
add
please,
one more
please,
challenge that is faced by
please, ma'am, please,
faculty?
please go on.
So, sir, a lot of time what happens is that we have to follow a certain syllabus that has been provided already by university or the college
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever, and these syllabus are not revised very often. So,
Yes.
but the changes that keep happening in the financial laws and technology laws, so the syllabus is somewhere lagging behind the technologies that developments that are taking place. Since a lot of students mostly are focused upon passing their exams, so they
Hmm.
are not really interested also to learn about new technologies or new changes that are coming up. They just
Very
want to
true.
study whatever is there in the syllabus and just pass the exams. So that also
Yes.
limits the faculty also to just focus on what is there in the syllabus per se.
True. It's like a modern dress provided to a conventional person, right? So it becomes very difficult. We need to deal it in a manner that may be crucial, not just for our understanding, for a student's understanding as well, but at times it becomes very difficult, and that is very true. What may be the common tips through which we can overcome these challenges, these issues? If there is anyone who can tell me what can be the ways, it's like a contribution that everyone is making. See, I am not a person who believes in merely dictating. I have always believed in interactive sessions, interactive setups, right? So I want to learn from everyone who is here. Okay, so please tell me how we can overcome these challenges that we are having, because I teach securities law, so there are certain challenges that I may also face, everyone faces. So what kind of problems we have, we know, but what kind of solutions may be there? If there is anyone who can tell me any concrete solution that we may have. Okay, anyway, I have a few in mind. That's never exhaustive. Let me tell you, it's a never ending process. How we can improve oneself, how one can improve oneself. It's something that is an ongoing process. In my opinion, I
There is
believe that while we are dealing with,
Sorry to
yes, ma'am, please,
interrupt, but I can
please, please,
give one solution, two rather.
please, please.
So one is
Go
related
on.
to my what challenge I just told about that if the syllabus is revised more often. Another is that since all law schools have to conduct, moot court competitions and policy making
Yes, ma'am.
competitions and all that, because that's a requirement by UGC, Bar Council, NAC, and everything. So we can always take up topics that are more, that are going to benefit the students, keeping the contemporary issues in mind. So topics that are
Definitely.
related to blockchain or cryptocurrency or other cyber related issues. So if we take up such topics, then the students will be bound to research about them, and it's going to generate their interest also, while also making them aware of these new changes. So I think that is also
Yes,
something that can be done.
that's a great point, ma'am. That's definitely a great point. Uh,
I would
yeah.
also
So
like to
broadly,
add what,
what ma'am has said. Sir, please go on,
may
sir.
I, sir?
Yeah, please,
Sir,
please go on.
what adding to what ma'am has said, I would say that nowadays the lectures are mostly one-way dialogue. So teachers
Hmm.
delivering the lecture without watching whether students are even getting a bit of it. And particularly in
True.
technical concepts like digital technology and all. So there it is quite important that first the interest of students should be arise by interacting with them without bringing the subject into the directly into the discussion. We should encourage them about to talk about it. Then only what understanding what problems they come across, what actually they do know about it. Then we can bring it to the subject, discuss it, and that will be more fruitful discussion, and that will become a dialogue between the two sides. Everyone learning from the other.
Yes.
This is my
Good, very good
suggestion.
point. Very good point, sir, you have raised. So, and I found a very good point provided in the chat itself, the chat as well, which says interdisciplinary teaching. So that's also a very important thing. Adopting a multidisciplinary approach is what our NEP also is emphasizing upon. And we at law, we cannot say that we stand outside society. पहले ये था, like earlier we used to talk about law being directly related to society, but now it's not just about society. And even if it is just about society, the society very importantly, very relevantly is involving around economy. Okay, so the law needs to be very clearly attached with the economy and economic principles, on money or monetary principles. So it's very important to have interdisciplinary teaching in law, right? And as ma'am was saying that it's more exam oriented, and students become exam oriented. They want to pass the examination and that's it. For that reason, I have a suggestion that we should encourage students to, and ma'am has also mentioned about it, like moot courts, etc. And just adding to that, we need to be more inclined towards, or rather we should encourage our students towards certificate courses related to these, because their experts from the field would come and teach you. Maybe it's a bit difficult for law students to grasp management principles, etc., but then they should definitely attempt to it. I'm not saying in the first attempt you will be successful to 100%. Even it's for law teachers that you should attend courses from NISM, etc. They are definitely going to help your develop your understanding with respect to financials, and eventually it's going to be fruitful for everyone around us, not just about the teachers or the students. It's going to be fruitful for our peers as well, our colleagues as well. And that may be something we should definitely be looking towards, having more certificate courses, having value added courses here, right based value added courses, or interdisciplinary courses where you can call some teachers from management, like I have taught in Indian Institute of Management. So that was more inclined towards an approach that we follow for management students. But since their subject was with respect to law, so it was not very difficult. But when you say that we are teaching, law merely by looking it through the lenses of law, it may be fine with orthodox or conventional law subjects, but that would not be sufficient for subjects like these, where we are talking about fintech, we are talking about blockchain, etc., because they require a thorough understanding of other subjects as well. So I am feeling very delighted to see that our faculties are providing such kind of valuable suggestions. It definitely added up to my knowledge as well, right? Now, While we are talking about all this, we should not deviate from our basic concept, that is blockchain, cryptocurrency, etc., legal challenges. Okay, now legal challenges means we want to teach our law students about it. Okay, how does blockchain handle, we'll discuss about this in the Q&A session at the end. Okay, so what difficulties may be there, because we're talking about legal challenges, we're talking about legal nuances related to blockchain, cryptocurrency, fintech, etc. So it's very important to understand that we want to impart knowledge of these things to our students. Okay, to our students we want to explain these concepts. Now there are certain problems that students may face while going through it. Okay, let me tell you what problems are there. Okay, we need to cope up about it. We as a faculty development program session, it's very important to have key takeaways with respect to this thing, that while we are delivering lecture over this to our students, what kind of problems they may face and what kind of solutions we may have. Because explaining the concept to faculties who are already enlightened, everyone here might be more educated than me, more experienced than me, and definitely you'll be having better knowledge about these subjects. So I cannot add up to your knowledge, which is already quite well, but I definitely want to highlight a few points with respect to how we can deal with these issues while we are delivering lectures in such things, because that is what the essence of a faculty development program generally should be. So what kind of problems or challenges students may face while they are going through learning about blockchain, cryptocurrency, etc. First and the very basic problem that students face is lack of foundational knowledge. Okay, lack of foundational knowledge. Now maybe at the level of a faculty we may not be able to do much about it, but when we are at the level of deans, or at the level of some kind of person who may work towards policy or decision making, or we can suggest our policy makers of our university or college concerned, institution concerned, that we should be looking for foundational knowledge as well. We should be looking towards providing our students with basic understanding first. Okay, we cannot directly jump into papers like blockchain and expect that students will understand everything in one go. A foundational course or a foundational knowledge about these things for the students of, let's say, first year. Okay, let's assume we are teaching this to LLM students. We should not start our concept over securities or corporate law from GPCL or general principles of corporate law. We should look towards the modern concepts of corporate law, so as to make them aware of these concepts at the foundational level. Then when we'll move towards these subjects as a subject to be taught to them, we'll be having better discussions. Okay, and foundational knowledge, by foundational knowledge here I am not restricting myself merely to Indian knowledge setup. I am considering a comparative study. Okay, because subjects like these definitely require comparative studies. So students find it difficult. That's again a true thing. While you'll take anything to the comparative level, students will find it difficult. But then this difficulty is actually the key to find a solution to this. If you'll restrict yourself to India, आपको पता चल जाएगा that okay, in India it's not allowed. Eventually you'll say okay, not allowed, let me, why should I be reading about it? Just an example I'm giving to you. If that is the case, we'll be restricting ourselves. We should definitely be looking towards what we have today and what we may have tomorrow, right? And if we look towards those things, what we may have tomorrow, we'll surely be looking towards these concepts. So it's very important that we make a comparative studies. Students might find it difficult. It's our task to make it interesting by what kind of points you have told right now, how to cope up with the challenges, so that we can do here as well. Another issue that students may face while dealing with blockchain, cryptocurrency, etc., is lack of precedence. Okay, lack of precedence, it's a new concept first of all. So precedents may not be there, okay, or landmark case laws may not be there, or even if they are there, they're so scattered, they're so fragmented that at the end it's very difficult for the teacher first of all to understand, then how he's going to deliver it to the other person. So enhancing, more access to international publications with respect to these concepts is very important. We need to have a reading of various kind of things like books, research papers, etc. Our students may not be having. Right now we have concepts like chat gpt, ai, etc. We all very frankly know all that. The point is, while we are facing all these kind of things, we should understand it's not only problematic, it's at time very important for us as well, because it's a technology that is evolving. We should not recluse ourselves from using it. We should, but we should recommend our students, or rather suggest our students, how we can positively make a use out of it. Okay, we should not merely use it to reduce our workload. We should use it so that ai and these kind of concepts will be beneficial for us. And how it is going to be like that, we may utilize these kind of concepts to find out any good read tech, and then have access to that reading. I do not know if every university provides for online database, online library, etc. But then somewhere or somewhere else you may find it. Okay, that's not going to be a major issue. If you are determined enough to find something, you can find it online. That's not a problem. So international readings are very crucial, not only for faculties but also for students. And it's our job to try and connect these kind of concepts with practical incidents, although it's very difficult, I know that. But we can make our imagination more wide, dimensions of our imaginations more scattered, so as to think about scenarios where we can have such kind of uh, examples that we can provide to them, which may be easy for them to grasp. Because if they start considering it boring, it goes on and on and on. Okay, it goes on increasing. So it's our task to break that chain. Okay, that no, it's not boring, it's interesting. How are we going to make it interesting? By inculcating these things. Okay, by if you continuously just say them that okay, you go and read this, you go and read that, eventually what will happen, they'll stop reading altogether, and they'll start hating the subject. It's our job to make it interesting. How are we going to make it interesting? By involving more of industry related people, okay, into it. I'm not saying we are not capable enough or competent enough, but then some kind of industry orientation at times may help. It may not just help the students, it will help us as well. Okay, so that is one thing that we should be looking towards. Another is widening the dimensions of our library or our reading habits. That is one thing very important. We should read multidisciplinary journals. We should read studies that are related to management and law, finance and law, these kind of things. We may have people from an industry like company secretaries, CAs, etc., who may be having knowledge about these as well. So that can be there. Multidisciplinary approaches may help. Uh, these interactions may help, and eventually if we follow a little bit of all what we can think of with respect to developing our, not just the curriculum, also ourselves. Okay, developing ourselves, that's the essence of a faculty development program, that we when we join it and when we leave it, to some extent we are developed in our teaching methodologies or overall reasoning of teaching. That is why we join an FDP. So my opinion in this case is that we should definitely be looking towards industry orientation, international publications, conferences, certificate programs, simulation exercises, guest lectures. All these things definitely are going to help you in this. And do not let the student feel that the subject is boring. Make them just kind of tell them that okay, this is kind of a subject that may earn you huge money. Although this may not seem to be a very motivating kind of a thing to many students, but few may get interested about it because they may get benefited in future. uh, uh, with due respect to the teachers of other field, uh, do not take it otherwise. But then yes, I'm just saying it for the sake of this thing, that okay, students will find it interesting. Right. So these kind of things, maybe their curriculum needs to be updated every now and then. We cannot say that we're teaching what we might have taught in 2021 to the students of 2026. We cannot do that. We are bound to update our curriculum. Like subjects like these needs to be updated every year. Okay, because not less than a year, that would be too much for students as well as teachers, not non-availability as well. So we need to update it annually. Okay, at least annually we need to update it. We should not teach students things which have got redundant. And one more thing, we need to be having access to every day's update as to what is happening. Okay, this is a tedious task. Okay, teaching securities, teaching cyber law, teaching about blockchain fintech is not an easy task. You'll always be required to be updated because there may be some new thing that may change the game and the rules altogether. And if you're not aware of that, it may be something problematic, and if the student knows, your impression also goes down. So it's a problem with these kind of subjects because they keep on updating themselves. The subjects are updating, we need to update ourselves. And how we can update, we can, if your university or institution is providing you, utilize the access to certain platforms that may be relevant with this. If they are not providing you, you can refer to the online available platforms which are there. Okay, just keep on reading about them. There are various platforms related to it, which may be open access, as well as some platforms that the universities or institutions generally do have. So we need to keep an eye over them always so that we can have a better insight as to what is currently happening. Okay, because discussing about old things, conventional things may be good for historical context, but what we are having today is very important to make them understand how things will be in future. So these are some of the things, as we can make things interesting for them, the kind of issues that they may face and the kind of solutions that they may have. Okay, now let me just share the PPT to you once again. These are the kind of questions that I thought of asking because of it being a faculty development program. I'm sorry if I could not meet up to the. Okay, just a second. Right, is it visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. It is
Yes,
visible.
sir.
So all what we have discussed till now, I have jotted it down into one slide here. Strategic importance of the topic for the law teachers. Okay, so it's here. If you want to read it, if you want to take a screenshot of it, your own call. We want to modernize our curriculums. We want to encourage research and scholarships on comparative basis. We want to have legal reforms, policy engagements, and that is where the law teachers may play a very important role. Okay, we talk about clinical legal education, legal aid. Okay, but legal aid, it's the time is gone when we talk about legal aid to providing legal aid to villagers, etc. I'm not saying we should not do that. I'm talking about this thing that we should expand the horizons of legal aid to corporate incubations, digital services. Okay, people requiring such kind of advices, startups, etc. That's definitely going to help. We need to upscale our teaching, right? Collaborations with fintech domestic global levels would depend upon elementary knowledge. That's a very important thing that we need to definitely look towards. Institutional upskilling is not just about the upscaling of a teacher. It's also about how you upgrade the skills of an institution. So international conferences at the institutional levels on blockchain, etc., that may be very beneficial. Let me tell you my own experience. Last year, me along with two other faculties at HNLU, we organized an international conference on blockchain, cryptocurrency related fintech measures, and we received a great response from various students. And at the very end, We even got a book published as the selected chapters from that very conference through HNLU Press only. But that was a kind of development that may have helped to a bit extent with respect to the legal developments of this area. So you can also do that. Every faculty should look towards organizing international conferences, or if not international, national conferences with respect to such kind of things. Maybe some guest lectures, workshops, etc. That meets up the global benchmarks with respect to the institutional frameworks. Every institution these days is looking towards innovational rankings. Gone are the times when you only talk about discussing or delivering lectures. Now the institutions look towards rankings. There's no problem in it, and the ranking frameworks also are looking towards these innovative subjects. Okay, this is definitely going to help an institution as well. And lack of available scholarship gives you the rise, gives you a chance. Okay, if there are 10 people, out of that 10, if there is one person who knows something that the other 9 don't, that one person can definitely stand out. Okay, and you can be that one person. So lack of available scholarship gives us a kind of an opportunity to discuss legal relevance. Okay, now coming to the topic that was there, although this is something will not take much time because it's a legal challenge. What is the biggest legal challenge? Is not legally recognized. If that is the case, then it becomes very limited. My point, or my idea of this discussion was largely related to make you understand that while we are incorporating these topics into our teachings, into our lecture delivery, what kind of issues we may face and what kind of issues the students may face. However, I'll discuss about the legal challenges as well. What are the legal challenges that are available or that happen with fintech? So, first thing that we see here is with respect to financial technology, or finance and technology put together, fintech related systems. What kind of legal challenges do we face? The first legal challenge, the most crucial legal challenge, because fintech is legally recognized. Okay, let me tell you. So the problem is not with legal recognition. The problem lies with regulatory fragmentation, because fintech is so diversified, so uncertain with respect to legal setup, that there is often an overlap between one or other kind of regulator over it. Now, let's say we are talking about a particular fintech system or a particular fintech organization that is dealing into trading, at the same time dealing into banking related facilities, and at the same time also related to depository related facilities. Now, if that is the case, that will be having three or four multiple regulators that may claim jurisdiction over one transaction. Okay, SEBI may also claim jurisdiction, RBI may also claim jurisdiction. Then, if it is related to insurance to any extent, IRDA may also take cognizance over it, and eventually NSDL, CDSL will also come into picture. So what happens? There are multiple regulators. Regulatory uncertainty will lead to what? Pendency. Regulatory uncertainty will lead to delay. Major legal challenges with fintech is that there is no scattered fintech. Like we are saying, RBI has developed a fintech organization or fintech department, but is it enough? No. Okay, there is a regulatory fragmentation that is very often happening in fintech, and that needs to be checked. Like in case of UPI transactions, NPCI may have its own opinion, RBI may have its own opinion, and then who are we going to look towards? Okay, and this leaves certain gray areas of operation as well, because everything is not very clear. The operation areas at times become gray. Okay, so that also becomes a problem, and eventually that needs to be checked as well. Lack of identification for the categories. Now see, I told you about one fintech related thing where we are talking about dealing into cryptocurrencies, CoinDCX for an example, or any other that you may recall. Okay, now what happens? Because of these things, there is a lack of identification. Okay, because fintech is evolving day by day, and its increasing scope has made it very important for us to understand that there may be certain categories that we may not be able to identify. That's a very important legal challenge that we have with fintech. Other important legal challenges with respect to data protection. That's an obvious thing, right? Fintech right now in India is not backed purely over blockchain. So there are certain privacy concerns, there are certain data protection concerns, privacy concerns on that basis where we're talking about identity theft, phishing, etc. These kind of things are happening. If some person is having access to your mobile phone, maybe in a position to utilize UPIs, etc. And there may be some kind of impersonation as well. So consent challenges are there. All these things are problem, okay, that are related to fintech with respect to the legal challenges. Data protection laws, we have DPDP in India, we have various other kind of laws that we have in India. To what extent we are emphasizing over them, if we are, to what extent we are complying with them, that is another very important thing. Cyber attacks, cyber frauds, IT, etc. All these things. Data protection is a very wide legal challenge. There is no limited dimension. And to a large extent, it's also unprotected. I'm not saying unprotected with respect to the laws, it's with respect to the execution. So we need to work upon execution as well. Now, other the challenges that may be there with fintech, licensing, sandbox models. Now, regulatory sandboxes are there, not just in India, okay, but in India as well. Okay, regulatory sandbox actually is a scenario where we provide a limited interface network to a particular fintech to check what it is going to do. It's like a play field, okay, where before going into the actual play, you are testing your potential, you're testing your competence, and that will help you while you go to actual ground. Okay, so it's like a practice that you are doing. Sandbox is a practice playground for fintechs. Now, sandbox, RBI has identified it, but what happens in a limited network may not be the same as to what will happen in a network that will be, when you'll be going global, or let's say even domestic levels, but when you are going to the public at large, that becomes a problem. Licensing becomes a problem because the kind of interface, as I told you, there are certain kind of regulatory authorities overlap. Licensing also becomes a very major issue. As to who shall be grant, that becomes a problem. Although these things are being dealt, they are trying to recognize and identify and solve these problems, but we are talking about the current scenario. So problems still are there. Okay, and there's another very important legal challenge with respect to consumer protection, transparency in fintech. Again, it's related to data protection, identity theft, impersonation, these kind of things. Non-transparent pricing or hidden fees are there. Okay, when you talk about payment gateways, there are certain hidden fees. In case of credit card payments, you might have seen there are certain hidden fees, etc. And while you're dealing it with an automated framework, I'll tell you an example of mine. Once, I think 3 years back, I just gave a mandate to my credit card from HDFC Bank that you please deduct every month a particular amount for my DTH service, and you just go on deducting it. I'll not be bothered by that. But now when I am also lazy, let me tell you. But then what happened? This is I'm telling. Now when I tried, stopping it, or like revoking that mandate, I cannot find in the app where exactly shall I be revoking it. Maybe I did not find it better, or like I did not go through it in a detailed manner. But all what I could have seen, starting a mandate was very easy, but revoking the mandate becomes very difficult. And this is still not legal challenge, it may be a technical challenge. But when these things are involved with money or an obligation put together, it becomes a legal challenge as well, because it may be related to violation of your consumer rights. Then algorithmic bias in nations like India, where high frequency trading, machine learning, etc., is to a large extent regulated. It's very important to know and assume and understand rather that algorithmic bias may happen. Grievance redressal systems in case of identified networks, in case of identified transactions, it's there. But what happens in case of a transaction that might not be regulated altogether, although you're doing it through a fintech network, but because it is attached to something that may not be regulated or identified by the central regulators, grievance redressal becomes problematic. or else at the very end you may find no grievance redressal altogether. So that can be another legal challenge. Cross-border issues, fraud, technical errors, downtime, these kind of problems may also be there with respect to fintech, secondary problems that may arise. Now, legal issues that are pertaining to blockchain and smart contracts. What kind of legal issues blockchain may have? What kind of legal issues smart contracts may have? See, blockchain, the most important and the most crucial legal issue that blockchains face are legal recognition. Okay, whether the concerned nation legally recognizes blockchain as a technology, and if yes, whether it recognizes blockchain for a certain activity or not. Like in India, if we say blockchain as a technology, I don't think is restricted, but blockchain as a technology for the sake of financials or financial system is unregulated, non-regulated right now. Okay, it's not regulated, thus there is no investor protection, thus there is no regulatory corporate governance regime, etc. So eventually, what will happen? You are investing in your own risk, at your own risk, right? So the kind of problems that may arise are all dependent on one thing: legal recognition. If you are legally recognizing blockchain for fintechs or blockchain for financial related systems, it will be something that will be protected. But उसमें problem, there is one major issue that the regulators might not be able to apportion accountabilities properly because of blockchain, and that is the reason they do not regulate it. So legal recognition is one very important problem. Recognition by the law is another, is the issue that you face. Enforceability again would be dependent on legal recognition. If you are legally recognizing something, enforceability would not be a major issue because you can get it enforced by the kind of principles that you apportion over them. Problem arises when enforceability, when legal recognition is not there. Now, jurisdiction and conflict of law, another very important issue with blockchain, because since blockchain is dependent on certain blocks, as I told you, of parting belonging to a particular chain, there may be a scenario that jurisdictional clash happens during this block transactions. Okay, or by the virtue of it being blockchain, there may be a scenario that it is not under the regulation or supervision of any one nation as such. It may be more than that. And if it is more than that, jurisdictional issues are bound to happen. First of all, legal recognition is not there. If legal recognition would be there, jurisdiction would become a major issue. Conflict of laws may arise, right? And that becomes another very important challenge. Interpretation, this is what we have been discussing from the very beginning. Interpretation is a major issue because we do not have a definition of blockchain. We do not have a clear understanding of how law may look towards it. So interpretation becomes a problem. Ambiguity of the code, uh, codes. Okay, you see, blockchains are dependent on what? Nodes and codes. Okay, it's all technology based things. Language may be Python, C++, etc. All those engineering background students might be knowing about. It's not at all probable to think that the regulators might be well versed with these code languages, etc. So that is again going to be a very important problem. If you start recognizing them, you'll be bound to appoint technical members in every regulatory body. You'll be bound to have those members having a detailed knowledge about these things, right? So that's another problem. Irreversibility and immutability, irreversibility is a problem, immutability is a good thing. Okay, see, immutability becomes a problem when you actually want to hack it. Okay, ethical hacking, like ethical hacking is a thing that is happening. If you want to trace it, you'll not be able to. Okay, if you want to reverse it, you'll not be able to. So let's say the system made any mistake and the blockchain began with respect to that, the mistake will remain there. Okay, you cannot reverse it. The only thing that you can do then is to see that particular thing happen that way. This is what blockchain we see in the current time. Definitely there are improvements going on. Okay, the persons who recognize them, the person who work over them might be knowing better about it. Okay, but then yes, there may be an issue with respect to this because you will not be in a scenario where you can redo the same things again. Privacy, we can say privacy is a thing because it's divided into such blocks. that you cannot identify what the transaction or where the transaction is going. Okay, divided into multiple blocks, and every block is independent yet dependent on each other. Community validation, as I told you, is an important thing. So privacy is there, definitely privacy is there because of blockchain. But are we actually inclined towards mere privacy? In India, when we are seeing towards the law, along with privacy, we are also emphasizing on governance. And in governance, we follow a principle of transparency and disclosure. So while it is too private, it may be said to be too private because you do not ever get to know from where it all started and from where it all is going to end. If you get to trace it in between, you might not be in a position to understand where it starts, where it ends. But transparency is compromised because, as per Indian laws of transparency, it says that all the financial transactions need to be transparent. This is why we had digital payments, we looked towards NPCI, etc., because we wanted more transparency in financial transactions. So blockchain would encourage privacy. That's a good thing, definitely, but at the same time it's a conflict with transparency. That may be something that is compromised. Asset classification, tokenization, it's a bit difficult task for law teachers, for law students as well. We need more people from technical or technological backgrounds to explain these kind of things. Legality and risks that are attached with decentralized finances. Now see, decentralized finance to a large extent in India seems to be outside the purview of legalities. But then if we look towards international frameworks, the kind of risks that are attached with decentralized finance is a mix of blockchain and fintech. Additionally, you can see there are certain kind of operational risks that may be there. As I told you, if there is a fault with respect to a transaction, that is a human error. That human error at the time of entering into that transaction, let's say you want to send your money to somewhere through a blockchain technology. Okay, now, by the virtue of that blockchain technology, if you're sending your money somewhere and if you by some human mistake entered a wrong account number or something like that, okay, maybe whatever happened, some kind of human error happened, the blockchain technology is responsible for you, and this operational error that you might have had might leave you with no way of getting your money back. This may happen, although how technically it is sound or how technically it is unsound, I am not very sound to tell you about that. Just telling you that there are certain operational risks that may be there. Legal recognition, it's obviously there, since it's a mix of fintech and blockchain. Obviously legal recognition would be an issue. Liability orientation, as I told you, while you do not know about the initiators, you cannot apportion proper liability, proper accountability, and eventually that will also be a major legal problem. Because in law, it's very important for us to apportion accountabilities. Only then we can say that something is being done properly. Now, emerging trends that are related to these scenarios, blockchain, fintech, etc., etc. In India, we are seeing startups are growing like anything. Like lots of startups are there. There are certain startups that are started working towards dealing into blockchain based finances like bitcoins, etc. That's also a concern. SEBI is growing concerns on this basis. Okay, not just SEBI, actually RBI's concerns as well. Very recently, SEBI has issued a consultation paper, I think a month back, with respect to machine learning, artificial intelligence, and the usage of these things into trading. So they were having certain concerns with respect to these areas. Fintech related departments, inspections are happening. You might have listened about the Paytm bank case that has happened. Okay, so these are all things related to the emerging trends that are happening. Securities surveillance, this is done by SEBI. Okay, if they have found any particular security to be fluctuating from beyond normal, said to be within surveillance or under surveillance actually, and that at times will be beneficial for the investors because they provide that you should not invest into these securities because they're under surveillance. And this fluctuation that is happening may be because of some kind of technology that we have dealt. So that may be a case. External mechanisms, uh, Now, while we're talking about blockchain, etc., there might be a scenario that an organization which is investing through a institutional investor, as a foreign institutional investor, might be receiving funding through blockchain based, funding mechanisms, etc. And that may be, problematic for Indian companies at times, because they might not be willing to get the investment indirectly from someone, from a nation that might be, enemy character, etc. So that mechanism becomes a bit difficult. At the very end, there is a need of globally accepted norms and conventions. There are nations which are developing, there are nations which are developed. Every nation might have its own policies and frameworks with respect to this, but then eventually we need to have a kind of global framework so that we can meet out the obligations, so that we can have a better, regime for blockchain, cryptocurrencies, etc. So just a second. Right. So broadly, this is from my side what I thought of, letting you know with respect to blockchain, fintech, decentralized systems, etc. If I did not meet up your obligation, I'm extremely sorry about it. But my sincere request to everyone would be that you please have a look towards how we can, inculcate such kind of things while we are dealing with such subjects and teaching students about such subjects, because that is where we are going to make the next generation more aware about these concepts, because they are definitely going to deal with it even if we are not, because in future we are definitely going to have this thing in our mainstream finances, mainstream sciences, everything. So that is definitely going to be there. So I open the session for any interaction and Q&A if there is any question.
Participants, if there are any questions, you may ask in the chat box.
I would request also to please, we'll be concluding in another 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, I do not have much time, so please you can ask questions quickly.
If there are any questions, participants, you may ask. I would request everyone to turn on their camera for the group photograph. All of you are requested to turn on your cameras, please.
So, ma'am, can I take your leave now?
Sir, just a minute. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
please,
you,
please, please.
thanks, Shubhaskar, for such a comprehensive and enlightening session on fintech, blockchain, and decentralized systems. I would like to invite Dr. Komal Chauhan to deliver the vote of thanks for this session. Thank you, Amrita. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Department of Law, CHIMPS ENTC, it is my privilege and honor to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks for the enlightening and thought-provoking expert session delivered by Dr. Mayank Srivastava, Assistant Professor of Law, Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, on the compelling topic legal challenges in fintech, blockchain, and decentralized systems. Today's discussion illuminated some of the most critical and emerging issues shaping the intersection of law and digital innovation. Our distinguished experts skillfully guided us through the integrate legal landscape of financial technologies, blockchain advancements, and decentralized platforms, providing much needed clarity on the regulatory ambiguities and evolving frameworks in the fintech, data protection, compliance, and jurisdictional complexities in blockchain. Sir, your expertise and practical perspectives enabled us to deeply engage with these dynamic and significant topics. The session has initiated meaningful dialogue and broadened our understanding of how legal frameworks must evolve alongside technological change. I also like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Amit Gupta, Chairman of the GIMS Group, for his visionary dedication to academic excellence and for supporting initiatives that foster critical thinking and legal awareness. My heartfelt thanks also goes to Professor Sachin Yadav, Campus Director, for his unwavering commitment to academic innovation and for nurturing a progressive learning environment. I also extend my sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Pallavi Gupta, Head of the Department of Law, for her inspiring leadership and continuous efforts to bridge theoretical learning with real world application. To our esteemed faculty and enthusiastic participants, thank you for your thought provoking questions and active engagement. Your contributions greatly enriched today's session and transformed it into a collaborative learning experience. Once again, sir, I extend my deepest thanks to our esteemed speaker for generously sharing your time, knowledge, and vision. We look forward to many more sessions that inspire and inform. Thank you, everyone. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So now I can leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Komal Johan, for your gracious vote of thanks. It's now time for our lunch break, and please enjoy your meal. And we'll reconvene at 1:30 p.m. to kick off the next part of our today's schedule. That will be the presentation and discussion. So we'll have these sessions for the yesterday's group as well, group number 2, and today's group number 3. So both the groups are requested to be ready, and we'll reconvene at 1:30 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone.